Hi there, this is a tutorial video covering how to make a high poly version and a low poly version of this dandelion that can be used inside of your games. The high poly version is more for medium to large models in the game that will be maybe like the size of the character or bigger. The low poly version is for models that are going to be maybe half of the size of the character or much smaller and are going to be used several times throughout the game. So I already kind of put them together in advance to show you what the end result is going to look like, but we're going to make our way over to a brand new project and we'll start them up from scratch. So I'm going to start with the low poly version. I'm going to start by making a sphere. I'm going to scale it way down. I'm going to hold down Control and scale up, so that way now I have a duplicate. So this little one here is the seed. I'm going to hit the up arrow key, and this is the puff. And then now I need to make a stem. So I'm going to use the spline pen. I'm going to click, and then I'm going to click and drag. And then I'm going to just make a little bit of an adjustment there. That looks fine. And now I need the profile that's going to sweep along the stem. I'm going to maybe make it, let's go with maybe 2 centimeters. Let's see. I'm going to go ahead and make a sweep. If I hold down Alt and click on it, it automatically makes the end side a child. And I'm going to click on that and drag it as a child, and looks good. There we go. I do want it to be a little bit thicker at the base and thinner near the top, so I might make this end side just slightly bigger, like that. And then I'm going to come to the sweep here. I'm going to scroll down to the details. These might be closed up, so open them up. And the scale here, I'm going to click and drag this point. This is the end point. This is the beginning point. So I want my end point to be thinner. So now it's going from thick to thin. Yeah, that looks fine. I'm now going to make probably the puff a child of the seed. I'm going to grab that and bring it to the top here. Let's see, I might make the puff a little bit smaller. Yeah, that's fine. So I'm going to go with that. Now it's time to make I guess let's go with the leaves. So I'm going to make a plane. I'm going to hit NB so that way I can see my polygons. I'm looking at the polygons here. I think the seed has way too many. So I'm going to turn that down to maybe like 12. And the puff, maybe 24. If it's going to be for medium to small models. Alright, so that looks fine. And then my plane, I really only want it to be 1 by 1. So 1 by 1. And as for the size of the plane, so in order to get the plane to look like these leaves that we have here, I'm going to be using a texture and adding an alpha channel so that way it's transparent. And the reason I'm putting it together here in Cinema 4D first is so that I know that everything's scaled correctly once I take it over to Unity. So I have 3 textures here that I really quickly put together in advance. I'm going to put any textures that I use or create today into a link that you can download from the description of this video. But so I made all of these the same size, so the dimensions are 276 by 700. So I need to make this plane be that same dimensions for now, and then I can scale it down. So 276 by 700, and then now I can scale it down, and I know it's going to be the right proportionally, so that way I know it's the right dimensions. And so I'm going to go ahead and hit E. I'm going to scoot it over this way. I think that's going to be fine about there. And then I'll go ahead and I'll make a null. I'm going to call this leaf 1. This will be leaf. And then I'll place this in there. I'm going to hit rotate. I'm going to just angle it up a little bit like that. And then I'm going to hit W so that I'm using the world coordinate system. I'm going to hold down Control, drag to make another leaf, and another leaf. So that'll be our leaves once we finish up. And if I want to scale these up bigger all at the same time, I can select all three, hit T for scale, and then I guess in this case I could probably just scale straight up and it'd be fine. I think about there is good. Okay, so now we're going to move on to textures. I'm going to make, let's see, so I need for the seed, I'm going to control drag that. That's going to be for the stem and the puff. And I'm going to just start with leaf 1 for now. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and save this project real quick. File, save project, and in this case, it's going to go to, let's see, Dandelion. And so I'm just going to make a new one. So Dandelion demonstration. There we go. Oh, yeah, let's see. Copy, delete, over here. There we go. Save. Okay, so now this is saved, and so any textures I make will go ahead and be saved by that, so that's why I was kind of wanting that. Okay, so my seed, I can edit this in Unity, so it doesn't have to be exact here. Let's go with something like that. Throw that on the seed. This is the stem. Make this one kind of green. And then the puff, I'm going to give myself some more room here. I'm going to go to the basic tab. I'm going to turn on alpha. Then in the alpha channel, I'm going to go to texture, noise. And let me see, it looks like I need to put the puff texture on the puff. There we go. And let's go ahead and make some adjustments with the interactive render region so that we can see what the actual resulting noise is looking like. And let's go ahead and see, I probably want to turn down the global scale. Maybe a little bit bigger than that. And then maybe I'm going to scroll down to the contrast and maybe turn that up a little bit more. Maybe a little less, and then I'm going to bring up the low clip a little. Let's go ahead and turn up the size of this global scale. Yeah, I think that's fine. So if I want to use this texture that I've created here in Unity, I'm going to click on the puff, I'm going to right click, and then I can type in bake. I'm going to go to material tags and bake material. So what this is going to do is it's going to give me a texture that's going to wrap perfectly on a sphere that I can use and take over to Unity. So in the tag tab, I want to tell it where is it going to save to. So in this case, for now, I'm going to put it in the TEX folder, and I'll name it like Dandelion text. Hit save. Then what format? I want it to be PNG. And then what size? I think 512, so that way it can be medium or small. And then now in options, I want it to be the alpha. And then I just need to hit bake. And now I have that Dandelion text alpha that I can use later on in Unity. So now that I've got that, it's time to get our leaves in. So in leaf 1, I'm going to take my leaf 1 texture, drag it into here, and then in the basic tab, I'm going to go and check on alpha. And in that alpha tab, I'm going to go to texture, bitmap, and click on leaf 1. So now that's on there. I'm going to go ahead and put that on leaf 1. And then I'm going to control drag. I need leaf 2 and leaf 3. There we go. So in leaf 2, I'm going to do the same process. I'm actually going to drag 2 and 3 into here for now. See, go up to bitmap. No, didn't bring 2 in. That's okay. So leaf 2, in the alpha, I need leaf 2. Here in leaf 3, I need leaf 3. There we go. So I got 1, 2, and 3. I'm going to place this on 2. I'm going to place this on 3. And that's pretty much it for the small one. Now for the larger one, I'm going to reuse some of what I already have here. So I'm going to just package this up and go Alt-G groups in here. I'm going to name this small Dandelion. There we go. And then I'm going to just really quickly double check on, yeah, the leaves on the bottom look just fine. Okay, cool. So I'm going to duplicate this by control dragging. I'm going to hide the small dandelion here, and I'm going to make some edits to some of this stuff. So I'm going to take all 3 of these, I'm going to go Alt-0, and I'm actually going to just get rid of 2 and 3 for now. I'll just use one of them for the time being. I probably also have to really quickly on this small dandelion and the other one, I'm going to come to the Axis Center tool. I'm going to come down here, and I'm going to use the Move tool to just move it back down to the center of the world. Or I can just go here to Axis Center, Axis to the bottom center there. Execute. Oh, use and include all children. There we go. Same for this one. Execute. That's fine. I'll just move it manually. There we go. So that's fine for now. Oh, here we go. So in model mode, if I come here, I can just type in 0, 0, 0 using my coordinates tab down here, and that'll move my axis without me having to manually figure all that out. There we go. So that's back at the center of the world. Sorry about that. Okay, so back to this. We've got the seed. I don't need the puff for the large version. So it's going to be large dandelion. There we go. For the stem, I'm going to come to the end side and maybe make this twice as big. So let's go with maybe 8. And I'm going to take the entire thing here. I'm going to hit T for scale and scale it bigger. Let's go with that. And then as for the leaf here, I do need to center this again. So now that's 0. Hide our small dandelion again. Okay. So with the large dandelion, I'm actually going to probably give it a little bit more of a curve to this to make it seem like it's heavier and droopier, like that. I'm going to take the seed here, drag it over, and maybe scale it up a little bit more, just like that. And it probably needs a couple more segments for this particular seed, so maybe 16 for now. And then now that we have one leaf here, I'm going to take a look at this leaf, and I'm going to give it some more, I believe, height segments, so that way it has something to curve along. And for this, I'm going to add a bend deformer. So I'm going to hold down Shift and click on the bend deformer, and it'll make it a child of the leaf automatically. If not, you just make the bend deformer and you go ahead and you make it a child down there. But for now, this is the way I'm going to do it. I'm going to tell it to follow along the, I believe, the positive Z, and say fit to parent. There we go. And how I know I'm going in the right direction is because I get these arrows that point down that way. And then I have this arrow coming sideways. This is the direction it'll bend in. So I probably want to make this 90 degrees. And then I'm going to turn up the strength. There we go. So you see we're getting this bending of the leaf. And so now I can take my leaf null that I made earlier for the parent of it, and I can go ahead and just pick it up and angle it until it looks like how I want. Let's see, maybe a little bit less on the strength of the bending. That's fine. There we go. And so now I can control drag my copies. So control, control, whoop, there we go. And then change out the textures on them. So leaf 2, leaf 3. There we go. So now I have leaf 1, leaf 2, and 3, leaf 3. I have my stem and my seed. So now I just need to make the little puffs that's going to go on the seed. So in order to make that, the best method I've had so far is I'm going to temporarily hide this large dandelion so that I can get a clear look at what I'm doing here, is to make one single line. So I'm going to click here and make one line coming out this way. And then I'm going to select both of those points. I'm going to hit T and scale them down perfectly flat. And then I'm going to make sure they're perfectly centered there on the Z-axis. And then I'm going to come back to model mode, and I'm going to rotate it. So I'm going to hold down Control and drag, and probably do about 45 degrees for each. I could also use the cloner, but this is fine as well. There we go. So I have all of those pieces. I'm going to take one of these. I'm going to rotate, hold down Control, and about 90. There we go. So now I have all of those. I'm going to just take all of them, right click. I'm going to just connect objects and delete so that way they're all in one single object there. And these are just splines. I need to sweep something on them. So once again, another end side. I'm actually only going to make it have 3 sides, and it's going to be fairly small. So, sorry, 3 sides there. And let's go with like 0.1. So it's going to be really small for the time being, and then I can make adjustments as needed. So I need to sweep this end side onto that spline there. We can see we get this thin little tiny geometry. I might need to make it just a little bigger. Say 0.2 or 0.3. It's just fine. I'm going to make one more material here. This is just going to be the puff geo, I guess. And apply that onto the sweep here. Puff large. Okay, so obviously this is very big for the object it's going to be going on to. So now that we see our dandelion there. So I might just come here. I'm going to Shift C, Axis Center, which is what I was using up here earlier. And just do the same thing for this spline real quick, execute, and then T for scale. I'm going to just scale it down. And then I'm also going to hit Alt-0 so that way it goes back up to the center of the world there. Okay, so now I need to clone this onto the surface of this sphere here. So I'm going to make a cloner. I'm going to put the puff large in there. And in the cloner, I need to tell it to be in object mode. I'm going to then take my seed from the large dandelion and have it clone onto the surface there. Now, obviously this isn't exactly what we want. We need to change a few settings. So in this case, the distribution is going to be the polygon centers. So a little bit closer, but still not quite. I could come over here and I could transform each clone, let's see, until they're kind of where I need them to be. See, or I can come in here and, woo, I can rotate it from the origin, but I think using the one in the cloner is slightly the best method. So let's just take a look at one of these and see if we can get this kind of correctly positioned. So I need it to pitch until it's perfectly upright, and then I need it to bank a little. Do think that the pitch needs to come back a little bit, and then bank. There we go, kind of. Okay, now the thing is they're all kind of rotated the exact same way. They all look very uniform. So in order to get them to kind of, and I'm going to hit NB now that I don't need to look at, or sorry, NA, now that I don't need to look at the geometry anymore. So I can kind of see what I'm looking at. So if I want them to have a little bit more randomness to the rotation, I need to click on the cloner. I need to come down to the effectors down here. I'm going to go random. So right now it's changing the position. So maybe not really any change on the X or the Z, and maybe just a little bit on the Y. Let's say like -1, just a little bit. So we get a little bit of offset there. And then come to the rotation, and its rotation on the H. If I turn this up, it turns them around their little centers there. And so all of these will be randomly rotated now. And then maybe even just a touch of scale, uniform scale, and I can just adjust that a little bit. And so if I want more of these puffs, I just need to come to the seed here and turn up the number of segments. And so that's cloning onto each and every polygon there. I can also just say 16, but maybe if I want them closer, turn down the radius of the seed there. So let's say 24. If I want to scale these up, I just need to come to this down here and hit T for scale, make them a little bit bigger. Lots of options for what we've got going on. I might want to scale it a little bit just on the from the top view to make these little tendrils that are sticking out just a little smaller. Okay, so now that I have them, I have to take them over to Unity. So now that we have them modeled, I'm going to go ahead and move on to transferring all of this that we've just done and making it work in Unity. So I'm going to go ahead and take all of this and put it inside of the large dandelion there. And I'm going to unhide this. And so I need to right click and say connect objects. So that's my large dandelion and the small dandelion. I'm going to take both, well, I'm going to take them one at a time. Let's go ahead and rename it really quick though. I don't want this 0.1 at the end. There we go. So I'm going to go File, Export, FBX, turn off cameras, lights, selection only is checked on. In this case, there's no animation, and I do want to keep the materials in there, but I'm going to turn off bake materials for now. just because I already baked the materials that I'd need. So I'm going to go ahead and hit OK. And I'm going to go ahead and hit save. And now let's do the same thing with the small dandelion, FBX. All my settings should be the same. Hit OK, save. There we go. Now on to Unity. Let's see. So here in Unity, I'm going to go ahead and bring in those FBXs that I just created. So this one and this one, drag it over. And then let's go ahead and just get them dragged into the scene for now. So they're both kind of working. Let's see. So I'm gonna go ahead and turn down the global scale. So I'm gonna select both of these. Come over to model scale factor. I think, yeah, turning it down. So I'm gonna make it about 1/10 of what its size was earlier. Maybe let's go with 1/4. Okay. So I'm gonna take that large dandelion and move it closer. Alrighty. It's kind of odd because I did fix the anchor points on this, but I think once I baked it down, it didn't quite do, it must have reset the anchor point. So make sure when you do your FBXs, you fix the anchor point and make them at the bottom of this here. Okay, so now what I can do is I can right click and say, or actually select this, go over to materials and say extract materials. And I'm going to go ahead and make a new folder in here called materials and select that folder there. Do the same thing with this one, extract materials in materials. There we go. Okay, so now I have all my materials in here for those. Some of these did duplicate to leave 6, but I really only need 3 of these. So I'm going to go ahead and hit delete. Any of these that are missing, what I'll do is I'll just come over to here, large dandelion, and I'm going to just apply those to that. There you go. So now that's taken over. Or if anything, I could also just do it over in the, so in the FBX here, large dandelion, so it says missing here. Right, I have to, large dandelion, I have to lock this for a minute, go over to materials, and I'll just place this in there. So leaf 3, leaf 2, and leaf 1. So that way it'll always reference those 3 that I have there. Puff Geo, seed, seed 1, stem 1. So since I have duplicates of these, I go ahead and delete those. It's going to say missing again. So once again, seed and stem, just so that way they're referencing all these. I don't have to have duplicates of materials. So I've got that all worked out. I'm going to go ahead and hit apply, so that way it applies all of that to the model. And now I can unlock that and come back to working in here. So let's see, here in the large dandelion, I'm going to go ahead and just, it says overrides, I'm going to hit revert all here and do the same with this one, so there's no override, so we're good. Okay, so I did make that texture earlier for the small dandelion. Now, in order to get it to work in here, I believe, let's see, I go ahead and drag in that texture, and I'm also going to drag in my 3 leaf textures while I'm at it. I should probably make a new folder, call it text, and then just drag those into there so that way, or for now I'll leave them here, I'll organize them later. So for this, I guess I'll get the leaves set up real quick. So leaf 3, I'll just go ahead and place this on to the base map of leaf 3 there. And then I need to come up to alpha clipping, check that off, and that's done. Do the same thing for leaf 2, turn on alpha clipping, leaf 1, alpha clipping, There we go. It's pretty much done. If you are going to be seeing the bottom side of these leaves, you could technically take these materials and tell it to render face both. That way it'll show both on the back and the front there. There you go. And so now to get the puff texture to work here, if I drag this into here, what's going to happen is it's going to look black and white. It's not going to have the seeds showing through here. Let's see. I haven't tried this yet, but I'm going to click here. I'm going to say none. I could try putting it in the mask here. Not quite. Okay. So I'm going to clear that back. So there's two ways I could do this. I could place this in here. I can tell the texture to say the alpha source is from grayscale, and then apply, and then come over to the puff material itself, tell it alpha clipping, and so now it is clipping that. The only thing is that it does look very like dark because there are some parts that are like, I guess because it's got like blurry, it does look kind of odd. I could say turn on transparent, and that does kind of help a little bit, and change it to additive mode, right? It does give me kind of a better result compared to previously. I can back up from that. And so this here, once alpha clipping is checked on and we have this threshold, I can turn it up or down to give me more or less of that material showing. The other method I use for this to get it to work a little bit differently is I'll typically go over to Photoshop and I'll drag my texture into there. And I just do this little trick where I make a new layer, and then I make sure this is set to default, so D, and then the shortcut Control Delete fills with the background color here. And I'm going to unlock this layer and come to layer 1 here that we filled with white. I'm going to create a mask. And then here at layer 0, I'm going to hit Control A, so I select everything. Control C to copy. And then I'm going to hold down Alt and click on the layer mask here. So now I'm looking through the mask. And Control V to paste it into the mask. And so now I'm going to get rid of this layer down here. And whoop, I have the eraser tool there. Just come back to this move tool and Control D to deselect. And so now I have this transparent texture here. I can go now File, Export, Quick Export as PNG, and take it over to the path for our TX folder, Dandelion text underscore alpha. Save. Right, I don't need Photoshop anymore. I'm going to drag that in there. And I'm going to use this one instead. So in the puff, I'm going to drag this into there. And that does look a little bit better compared to previously. So Control Z, Control Y to redo. So it does come through a little bit more clearly there. I can tell it to render both faces, and I can then see a little bit more of the puffs on the other side. But if you want it to be a little bit less, you can always just say front, and it does, it's a little more efficient in, I guess, the way that it's calculating things. I'm going to go ahead and really quickly just make these a child of this cube that I'm using as the floor, and I'll just drag them a little closer to our camera so we can see the way the small puff is going to look through the camera. Yeah, I think that's pretty good for what we got going on. And then so the large puff, I'll bring that closer to the camera so that we can see it. You can kind of see the geometry there. It's catching the light. Alrighty, I think that's pretty much it. If you have any questions, you can always message me on Slack. Um, for now, have a beautiful day. Bye bye.